Elgton Jenkins returned to the practice field for the Green Bay Packers, but that does not mean that his future or the current status of this offensive line is settled.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Gametime. You want tickets? Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off that first ticket purchase. Elgton Jenkins returned to the practice field on Monday, and he did so without an adjusted contract. And the story he told about that contract did not quite make sense. There was something, he missed offseason work because of family issues, and that may be true. There may have been some family issue that he was dealing with, but remember, it had been reported and then was again subsequently reported that Elgton Jenkins wanted his contract reworked, that he wanted protection moving to center. Now, what Elgton Jenkins also said on Monday, which was particularly interesting, was he had previously gone to the Packers and said, I think my best spot is center. I think that's where I can age the best in my career. And that is telling. Maybe he is just so savvy in this world that he understands that the best place for him, for his long-term career, the hits that he's going to take, that his spot on the Packers is predicated on him playing center. Or maybe that's just what he wanted to do, or maybe some combination of those. I think it's totally plausible that he has always believed that his best spot would be center. In fact, he hinted at as much when he said, I think I'll be just as good, maybe a little better. So he is expecting to play well. He thinks the sky's the limit for him at center. His words. Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber player. Well, Brian Gutekunst called him an all-pro. But they're not changing the contract. And that is ultimately what happened here. If I had to guess, I would guess that Elgton Jenkins went to the Packers and said, look, I'm willing to make this move, a move I would like to make, but I would like some assurances that for me being a team player here, with the understanding of how contracts work, that I want some assurances I will be here a year after I make this switch, that I will be playing in 2026 for the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers said, you're under contract, and if you are going to be a center, you will be the highest paid center in the league, which is true. So if he's going to be the center, he is expected to be an elite one. Now, I do think there is a world in which 8 months from now, Elgton Jenkins is being extended. He signed a 4-year deal. I think at least his agent is probably savvy enough to know, because he lives in that world. I don't know what the average player knows about contracts, if they're paying attention to the structures of these things. I don't know. I think some are probably heavily involved, and I think others are going, I'm just going to let my agent handle it. I want to play football. And that is a value neutral statement. I do not ascribe more value to one versus the other, especially if you have the right people taking care of your contracts. Like the first contract I ever signed, I went through it line by line with my attorney, and I said, I want to go through every line because I hope to sign a lot of these in my life, and I want to understand all of it. And after that, I've kind of just let the professionals take care of it. So again, I'm not judging anybody for however they're going to handle this, but I am operating under the assumption that Elgton Jenkins, who seems like a pretty savvy guy, someone who understands all of this. And wants to understand it. He got the message here with this contract and understood what is potentially coming, was trying to get ahead of it. That's just my reading of the tea leaves here. But there is still an option for this to move forward with Green Bay. He is under contract, remember, but they save $20 million if they move on from him next year with some needs on the salary cap. Now, go back. Corey Linsley, coming off an all-pro season in 2020 and with a COVID cap crunch, was allowed to walk. I would also say that 2020, that all-pro season, was clearly his best year. Like, I think people forget a little bit because of the way it ended, that early in his career, Corey Linsley was seen more as a replacement level or even at times a sub-replacement level center. Was not an all-pro right away, developed into that player. Now he went to LA and became an all-pro, and then within 2 years after that was out of the league. So ultimately, I think the Packers made the right call there, but we have seen the Packers, who are loath to say, here's a third contract. This, to me, is exactly the kind of player that they would give a third contract to. The Chad Cliftons, the David Bakhtiaris, those guys. Offensive line is a position, especially if he's going to be the center. If you think he can be an all-pro center, he says he's got 4, 5, 6 more years to play. Then you're already paying. Money's already on the books. So all you have to do is add a year or two and spread some of that money out. It may actually end up saving you money anyway, because you can give him a little bit of money up front, lighten that guaranteed money load by spreading it across some years. I think that makes sense for everybody. And I can totally see Russ Ball saying, hey, look, we don't want to pay for projection at a position we've never seen you play full time. I don't think that's fair to you, because we don't want to underpay you and we don't want to overpay you. Because if we underpay you in a year, you're going to be mad and we're going to have to do this dance again. And if we overpay you in a year, we're going to be mad. So let's just let it play out. And that is what I see happening here with the Packers. Now, this does not snap into focus everything for the Green Bay Packers offensive line. That's the thing. We still don't know where Jordan Morgan is going to play. Has had to play left guard because Aaron Banks is hurt. Interesting that they have done hey, Sean Ryan, you're going to be the center. And Jacob Monk is actually going to play right guard versus having Jacob Monk play center. That was how they were primarily handling it yesterday anyway at practice. I continue to believe that Sean Ryan is going to get the Lucas Patrick contract offer from the Packers. Whether he takes it or not is a separate question. I think there is going to be a team out there, even if he doesn't play all of this year, he will have played last year, a former third-round pick. He'll have played enough football, I think, to get a contract offer better than that. The question will be, what does he want to do? Does he like Green Bay enough to stay? Does he win this job? At the very least, this is going to be a platoon once again with Jordan Morgan. And I would think that by week 4, week 5, it's just Jordan Morgan's job at right guard. Then the question is, and Matt LaFleur gave some clarification. They think Anthony Belton can play guard. They're going to let him win outside, or they're going to let him get settled outside. That was the phraseology. That's interesting, because that's not what they did to Jordan Morgan. They let him play everywhere because they thought that highly of him. That was not the Bo Melton, we don't think you're going to make the roster at receiver. And by the way, he absolutely would not, given the way Matthew Golden was even better, bigger and better yesterday. Savion Williams is back out there practicing, getting some run with the ones. Bo Melton was not going to make this team at receiver, and he might now make it as a corner. There's a lot of... my exact expectation is the day one starting group is going to be Rasheed Walker at left guard, or left tackle, Aaron Banks at left guard if he's healthy, Elgton Jenkins at center, Sean Ryan at right guard, and Zach Tom at right tackle. Is that the long term for this team? I don't know. I don't think so. Jordan Morgan is probably your right guard of the future. Could, in the event of Rasheed Walker's eventual exit, could Zach Tom go to a more natural left tackle? Like Brian Gutekunst, we've heard the coaches talk about how he's kind of found a home at tackle. That doesn't mean he's found a home on the right side. He is a very natural left tackle in terms of size, in terms of foot quickness, like the prototypical size speed of a left tackle. Anthony Belton profiles more as a right tackle. He's getting work as a left tackle now. I would want to see him. I would want to see him there, frankly. Leave Zach Tom where he is. He's comfortable there. Anthony Belton is the younger player. He's trying to get it figured out. Leave him there. Let him learn left tackle and then let this all play out in a year. But there's going to be shuffling. There's always shuffling with the offensive line. And so that's just going to be what it is, because that's the reality of the way the Packers handle these things. I said yesterday on the show, I think that they might have a little too much dip on their chip with this Jordan Morgan thing, trying to get a little too cute. You hope it doesn't hurt them, but we'll see. Now, speaking of hurting them, the opposite is happening right now with trying to force fumbles. This has been something they are emphasizing, and it is already paying dividends in training camp. We'll see if it can continue. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Packers. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endlessly scrolling to find the best deals? Ever wonder what your view would actually look like before you buy? Well, Gametime lets you see panoramic seat views, so there are no surprises. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. Last year, the Packers were among the best teams in the league creating turnovers. But it was a lot of interceptions. And the emphasis this year is on forcing more fumbles. It's something they are working on in practice. It is something that the last couple of days of practice, there have been big forced fumbles. Punching the ball out, the peanut punch, the old Peanut Tillman. Those sorts of emphasis. It is the old adage that you get what you emphasize. And for the Packers, interceptions last year in the second half were harder to come by. So you still want to be able to force turnovers in a perfect world. That means you have to be getting fumbles, and they weren't getting enough pressure on quarterbacks to create sack fumbles. They don't have, I think, generally, speed rush is how you create sack fumbles. Speed rush and blitzes, backside blitzes, overload blitzes in particular. The quarterback has to not see you. Or you have to win so quickly that there's nothing you can do. Well, the Packers have a bunch of power rushers. So if you're not going to create those sacks that force fumbles from the pocket, how are you going to do it? Well, it's going to be Rashawn Gary sprinting across the field to force a fumble on Jaden Reed. It's going to be Javon Bullard making a tackle, but while you're doing it, punching the ball out. Or Evan Williams coming up, filling on a receiver and punching the ball out. It has to be an emphasis if you want it done, because there is a technique to it. And you want your team to always be thinking, not just interception, interception, interception. In fact, sometimes it can be dangerous to be thinking interception, 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 because it will cause you to gamble rather than play disciplined defense. But you can always try and punch the ball out, because the point is to try and do it as you're making the tackle. And in fact, you go on social media, you will see videos of some of the drills that they were doing, focusing on tackling through the ball. And again, it's already working. The other side of this is when you are, as a defense, emphasizing something like this, it is the old cliche of iron sharpens iron. Like if you're Tucker Kraft and you're getting the ball punched out, you're going, wait a second. Like, I'm this big, strong dude. I should not be having the ball punched out. Well, like Josh Jacobs, he is a truck of a running back. Thickly built, strong dude. I mean, his arms are... I saw the interview on NFL Network with him and Stacey Dales and that former front office person next to him. His arms are like enormous compared to, regular people. You're going, okay, I got to fix this. I'm doing something wrong here, or at least I'm not focused enough to be having good ball security. So now you're helping your offense by focusing on the fumbles because they're thinking, I got to make sure I don't fumble. And so this is a double benefit to the Green Bay Packers. Turnovers are volatile, in part because interceptions, you're just in a given season, you're probably not going to get a bunch of them. And fumbles, there is luck in whether or not you recover them. Sometimes you force a fumble, it comes right back up to the ball carrier, or it goes right to a teammate. You have to be able to recover them for them to be turnovers, but the more you force, just the simple odds say the more likely you are to get some. If you force 10, your chances of getting 5 are much higher than if you force 5. Now, there might be 2 teams where they force 5 fumbles in 3 weeks and they recover all 5. And then there's another team that forces 10 fumbles in 3 weeks and only recovers 5. But which team gave themselves better chances? Which team played better in terms of trying to create turnovers? Clearly the team that forced 10 fumbles. There's fringe benefit to that too, in that, let's say you force 3 fumbles in a game and only recover 1 of them. In the fourth quarter, guess what those running backs and receivers are going to be thinking about? Not running after the catch. They're going to be thinking about covering up and or going to the ground. There is a fear factor in all of this too, and we saw it last year with the interceptions. When you create those interceptions, Xavier McKinney has 5 interceptions in 5 games, and then teams just said, we're not doing this anymore. We're not banging our head against the wall. It's like they stopped throwing deep. Now, you can't stop running the ball near Packers defenders. But if this is a team known for punching the ball out, they are chasing, stated goal, chasing the record of forced fumbles. Then teams, number 1, it's on tape. And number 2, they play the Lions twice. They play the Bears twice. They play the Vikings twice. There are teams on their schedule that they could see in the postseason. There is a fear factor with all of this. And so, okay, when you play the Packers, their goal is we want to be the best turnover team in the league, clearly. They want to be the best disguised team in the league. Now, you're probably not going to be the best everything. But now, remember we talked about the evolution of Jeff Hafley's defense? They've got the disguise piece down. They know how to do that and be effective doing it. So that's just, you just leveled up. Like, you play an instrument, you play piano, and you learn a song. Okay, I know that song. I don't have to practice that song anymore. I want to try the next song. It doesn't have to be a harder song. It just could be a different song. All right, I'm gonna learn that one. I still know the other one, but now I got this other thing that I can do too. And that's how you level up this defense. Add the disguise piece. Now, a disguise team and a turnover team, that sounds like a nightmare to play against. That sounds like, the Vikings last year. I'm not sure. There were better defenses last year. I'm not sure there was a bigger headache to play than the Minnesota Vikings last year. That defense. They were just a nightmare to play. So stressful, physically, mentally. That's what the Packers want to be. Now, we talked about Christian Wilkins yesterday. There are some updates. Oh boy, are there updates. I don't think he's going to be a Packer. But let's talk about it next on Locked On Packers. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back, baby. Fire up the group chats. Get your draft boards ready and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the real reactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and Locked On Packers are playing Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. For as long as I have played fantasy football, for as long as I've had teams and been doing drafts, I've used Yahoo Fantasy. It is the gold standard when it comes to fantasy football. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, which just makes me feel old, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. And thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily Major League Baseball locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Christian Wilkins, we talked about the opportunity for the Packers to go get him. I don't think it's going to happen. The reporting that we got yesterday starts with he was hurt, had that foot injury, and in the recovery from the foot injury, it became clear he needed, at least to the team, he needed another surgery. He did not want to get another surgery. That surgery would have put him out a long time. Maybe he didn't want to recover. Maybe he didn't feel like he needed it. So the team has said, you are in violation of your contract by not doing what we said when it comes to that injury. I mentioned an incident, a weird incident. And sure enough, it was, I wouldn't say exactly what I thought it was, but in certainly the same genre of things that I thought it could be. And that was he, and the reporting is playfully tried to kiss a player on the head. Playfully. I think that distinction is being made so it is not a romantic gesture, because then you've got, sexual harassment, workplace, all that stuff that comes into play. The football locker room is not like any other place. Stuff happens in an NFL locker room that just like the dynamic is not a workplace anywhere else. Like coaches are MFing their players. It is degrading at times. Like it is wild. In any other workplace, some of the stuff that gets said and done would be totally unacceptable in your job or mine. That being said, you try and kiss somebody, playfully or not, and they don't want you to do that, in 98% of jobs that exist in America, that will get you fired. So there's that. Now, I have seen some ugliness in the discourse. The homophobia, that stuff. Two things can be true here. Not acceptable, not respectful, not work friendly at all. Like that is to steal an Archer line, a hostile work environment. That stuff cannot be tolerated in this or any workplace. It's not funny. But either are the jokes. The homophobic jokes in particular. Don't do that. Now, what this says is, to me, this says, look, I don't think something like that is a big deal in the grand scheme. Like, let's be honest. There are gay players around the league, and teammates, by and large, know they want good football players. It is the year of our Lord 2025. I believe that it's not going to be a problem. We know what happened with Michael Sam. That was mostly because Michael Sam was not good at football. So I don't think that is a hindrance to him signing anywhere, but he's hurt. or injured at the very least. And so I just think that precludes him signing. Like, he would have to find a team to clear him and then sign him. And I find it hard to believe that team would be the Green Bay Packers unless he's going to get the surgery. Now, if they say, hey, he says, hey, I'm going to get the surgery and in 4 months, I'll be ready to go, November, and you want him for just the stretch run and you can get him on the cheap and then you got a player option in year 2 kind of thing, or a team option in year 2, the way that you structure the contract, go for it. A team might go for that. I don't think the Packers will be that team. And I want to bring this up. It is somewhat related. We got the reporting yesterday that Jair Alexander, who had been apparently having a nice camp in Baltimore, is having swelling in his knee. Sounds like the same knee that he had scoped, that he had the issues with last year. And at the very least, over the last handful of seasons, even when he has been hurt, he's been healthy enough in training camp. And then the injuries stack up and he can't make it through a season. The fact that this is already happening is bad news. And I said this on social media and I want to reiterate it here. And I guess just like injury discourse, player discourse is the theme of this third block here. But I don't, and I saw some of it, I don't like the victory lapping. Like, yes, the Packers made the right decision moving on from Jair Alexander. He is not going to be able to stay healthy in all likelihood. The fact that he's already hurt is really bad. I did not, even for a second, feel schadenfreude. You feel how you want. It just is a bummer to me that a player who in 2020, I truly believe was the best pure cover corner in the NFL. You want to say Jalen Ramsey was the better all-around player, I'll hear that argument, but it was him and Ja and everybody else. He gets hurt in 2021. Najee Harris changes the trajectory of his career. Because in 2022, he's an all-pro again. So 2020 all-pro, 2022 all-pro. Yeah, was in the 2018 draft. Young player, looks like he's going to be a top 3 corner for like 6-8 years. And then 2023, injuries. 2024, injuries. And now, hurt again. And his physical prime is kind of over. He lost 3 full seasons. Now, he played parts of those 3 seasons, but lost 3 seasons where he's totally banged up. Prime seasons. And in there are 2 all-pro seasons. This was a guy who had the chance to be one of the best corners of his generation, to be mentioned in the conversation with the guys, depending on how you set the generational, guidelines here, the Jalen Ramseys, Pat Surtain, I guess, like he was the 21 draft. Sauce Gardner was the 22 draft. I don't know how, it's hard because he's post Darrelle Revis, but overlap some, and post Richard Sherman, but overlap some. And those players can really fall off a cliff. Like, the age curve is crazy at corner, but to lose 3 seasons in your prime because of injury, it's just brutal to me. And I never felt any ill will about his leaving. I didn't think there was any ill will between the Packers and Jair Alexander. It was just time. And that's all I could think of was sadness. That his body just would not let him be great, because we saw the greatness there. He could have been one of the best corners of his era. And instead, it's going to be a what if. He's still a very good player. Don't think he played quite long enough to be a Packers Hall of Famer, but like, if he had just played 2 more years of kind of meh football, solid, like 8 to 10 games, kind of where he'd been, he probably would have been. If the Packers had won a Super Bowl in 2020 or 2021, he probably would have been. He's going to be associated with an era of Packer football, this is somewhat appropriate, that is one big what if. What if he'd stayed healthy? How would things have been different? What if David Bakhtiari had stayed healthy? How would things have been different? Unfortunately, that is the defining feature of the late stage Aaron Rodgers and the early Jordan Love era. That's not a strictly Jair Alexander legacy, but it is a bummer that this has sort of been and become what his career is. Back tomorrow as we move through training camp. Pads are on, so the fun is being had. Follow me on the social medias, Peter_Bukowski on Twitter, on Instagram. Follow the podcast wherever you find social medias, wherever you find podcasts. We're there too. And we're on YouTube. You can watch us. Go watch us so you can say, Locked On Packers.